Ever feel like escaping to a deserted island?
Well, today's deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
it's about as far from like a tropical getaway as you can imagine.
Right.
Picture this. This island, they call it Stork's Rest, but, instead of like swaying palm trees and white sand beaches and all that, it's jagged cliffs, bone-chilling winds,
Oh, yeah.
and waves that are angry enough to like pulverize rocks.
Wow.
Yeah, the sources, they paint this picture of a place that's so isolated, so hostile, you almost wonder like how anything could actually survive there.
It really makes you think about like the limits of life, How can anything, well, and yet it's not entirely barren, is it? Stork's Rest.
Right.
This is where we find that intriguing figure. The one, the Barnacle Sheppard. Yeah, and that's where it gets really fascinating because it's not just about surviving on this like forgotten rock. He seems to be thriving.
Yeah.
At least that's what it sounds like from the accounts. But I think let's back up a bit before we get to our enigmatic shepherd. We got to talk about the storks.
Okay.
Because they're not just some picturesque detail in this whole thing, right? They're the apex predators.
Oh, yeah.
And the sources, they don't mince words. These are not your friendly neighborhood storks.
Right.
No, we're talking creatures with wingspans that could like block out the sun,
Oh, wow.
nesting in these structures. And get this, they're built from the bones of their prey.
Oh, that's creepy. The sources mention like massive skeletons, some of them even like human-sized, all woven into these towering nests.
It's a good point. It kind of reminds you like who's really in charge or what,
Right.
Really makes you think twice about getting too close.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes you think, well, okay, so now we've got this place that seems to be like designed to kill anything that sets foot on it.
Yeah.
So how does the Barnacle Sheppard not just exist, but also like carry on with this air of, I don't know, dare I say, joviality?
Yeah, that's the real head scratcher, isn't it?
Right.
Because he's not just like, grimly holding on.
Right.
The sources describe him as like almost cheerful.
Yeah. It's almost like, how do you find humor when like every single day could be your last?
Exactly.
It's wild. And he's described as this small, kind of hunched over figure, always wearing this cloak.
Yeah, the cloak.
Made from, get this, the storks themselves.
The very things that could carry him off, just like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild. Imagine that, like taking what could kill you and turning it into, well, I don't know, is it protection?
Right.
A morbid joke?
Hmm.
Or could it be something deeper, like some kind of symbol? It makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. Like,
Yeah.
I understand being resourceful and all,
Mhm.
but this is next level. And get this, under the cloak,
Yeah.
loincloth.
Yeah.
That's it.
No parkas, no long underwear.
Nope.
Just a loincloth. I mean, talk about being comfortable with your environment. It's almost unnerving. It's like those things, the things that would send most people running for the hills, they're just normal to him.
Right.
Accepted. Even embraced, maybe.
Wow. So, okay, we've got this image now. The Barnacle Sheppard,
Right.
draped in like the leftovers of his predators,
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be too bothered by the cold, the danger. It's just the weirdness of it all, right? But what's a normal day even like for a guy like this?
Well, if you're going by the sources, he gets up at dawn, just as the snorks are starting their day, too.
Uh-huh.
Imagine that. Sky just filled with those giant birds.
Yeah.
Wind, like, whipping around. And he comes out of his, whatever he sleeps in. Singing.
Singing. That's not exactly like the theme music I'd pick if my life was on the line,
Right.
It's almost like he's, I don't know, taunting fate or something.
Or maybe he's just made his peace with it. We see that a lot, actually. Humor, song. It's how people cope when things are rough.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Expressing yourself when you're a little scared. But then it gets, well, even more interesting. Because when he's not serenading giant birds that want to eat him,
Mm-hmm.
he's taking care of his, wait for it, barnacle farms.
This is what I love about the sources. They don't hold back. This is where you really see how clever this guy is. He's not just like scraping by.
Right.
He's actually farming this place.
Why?
The sources go into detail about how he uses, get this, the stork's droppings, like fertilizer, to help the barnacles grow. It's incredible.
So he's figured out a way to use this really harsh environment to his advantage.
Exactly. Like he's made a deal with the island. Even the stuff that could kill him, it helps him survive.
That's like a loop.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. The sources also talk about him talking to rocks, driftwood, like they're his buddies or something.
Okay, see, now that sounds like maybe he has lost it a little.
I know. But bear with me. Think about it. If you're totally alone, every day you're fighting just to stay alive. Maybe you need that connection, even if it's just a rock.
To stay sane.
Exactly. He's creating a community where there isn't one. It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
He's not just adapting his body to this crazy place. He's adapting his mind.
Right. Building his own little world out there. Tragic and inspiring all at the same time, don't you think?
I do. It really makes you wonder what happens to all that knowledge when he's gone. Because, well, from everything we've gathered, he's the last Barnacle Sheppard.
Right.
So when he's gone, who takes over the Barnacle farm?
Mhm.
Who sings to the storks? Who talks to the rocks? You know?
It's a good question, and kind of sad in a way. All
Yeah.
that knowledge, poof, gone, like it never existed.
It really makes you think about, like, well, what happens to all of it, right? This whole way of life. The Barnacle Sheppard, he's the last one. At least that's what the sources say. And there's no, I don't know, apprentice, nobody waiting to learn the ways of the Barnacle farm.
It is kind of sad when you think about it. All that knowledge just gone, especially in a place like Stork's Rest. So unforgiving. All that he understands about that ecosystem, how to survive, but not just survive, how to actually, I don't know, enjoy it even. That's precious stuff.
It really is. And you think, you'd expect him to be freaking out a little
Yeah.
about his legacy, his place in the world, the whole who's going to carry the torch kind of thing. But the sources, they don't give that impression at all, do they?
It is strange, isn't it? You'd think he'd be desperate, looking for an heir. But there's none of that. He seems totally at peace with it, like it's all just part of the plan.
Which, when you think about it, that's kind of amazing in itself, isn't it? The guy's resilience, it's not just about facing down storks and, eating barnacles. He's facing down the end of his entire way of life. And he's okay with it.
It makes you wonder, what does he know that we don't? It's like we're so obsessed with, I don't know, making a name for ourselves, leaving our mark, but he's content just to not be.
I know, it really makes you think, what can we actually learn from a guy like this? I mean, is it about finding joy in weird places, accepting that nothing lasts forever? Or maybe it's even simpler than that. Maybe it's just a reminder that being tough, being resilient, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Sometimes it's about laughing when things are rough, finding a good song.
I love that. Finding the song in the storm, the Barnacle Sheppard, he really does make you think about life, death, all of it.
He sure does. He may be this strange dude on a forgotten island, but his story, it sticks with you, doesn't it? It makes you think.
Like that echo, The one that hangs in the air after the bird's flown off.
Exactly. He's such a paradox, this guy. A loner who loves company, a master of survival who sings to things that want to eat him. But I think that's the point, isn't it? Life, it finds a way, even in the most messed up places.
It does.
And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, there's a little Barnacle Sheppard in all of us. That spark of toughness, that little bit of, well, absurdity maybe. Yeah. Just waiting to come out. So, next time you're facing down a challenge, think about the guy who farmed barnacles on Stork's Rest. You never know. You might just find yourself laughing or singing.
You're finding a little bit of peace when everything's going crazy.
That's it. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. If you have any thoughts, theories about the Barnacle Sheppard, we want to hear them. Hit us up online. Use the hashtag #DeepDiveBarnacle. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.